morning, Charles. We do. Yep, we have everything updated. I don't have the Misha Bayrock for this second, but I can get that from the book.
Yeah, you saw the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you think one of the extra, one of the old books, or one of the
Okay.
central one there, it's taken back there.
Oh no, the Misha Bayrock update. That's in here. No, it's not. Not anymore. It used to be, but it isn't.
So the order sheet.
Oh, is it there? Oh, there it is. Okay, fantastic. All right,
You
I've
should
got
look at
that.
it because it's not entirely pointed.
6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet.
It's not entirely pointed.
Okay. Yes, yeah, that's good.
Sorry, my water.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. Okay. Order of service today.
If that's,
Is there a sheet for that as well?
it's this guy. So it tells you which pages to go to.
Right.
So just follow that.
Okay, and we're going to wing it on standing and sitting. Although I think Baruch Shemar is standing, right?
Baruch Shamar is standing, and then when you stand at Yishtabach,
Okay.
so so it's Baruch Shamar, then you sit, and then when you go all the way through,
Okay, then Yishtabach is the matching stand.
right,
The matches one to Baruch Shemar. I can remember it on that basis. And then after we get to the Shema, I know where to stand.
yep,
Okay. Stand for Baruch Shemar, stand for Yishtabach. I'm going to
Yep.
try to remember that. Dan Scott Shockery.
it's gonna be on my contact list, I think.
There's no way we're getting through this without it.
Yeah.
And you got them all?
What's it?
You got them all?
Like, oh, yeah, let's open the yard, yes, my reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe that, I mean, this is gonna be reading it all like Shiva Kazakhstan.
Yeah. I'm going to
Dad, who's looking the Torah?
Sorry?
Who's looking the Torah, or you, or?
I can lift push.
No, this is doing the first house. And I'll do it on the way back. It's on the way out.
Right.
But you're gonna do hybrid?
No, you do high because that's at the beginning. So Moses' family, Moses' family takes out, gets it on the table. It doesn't. I will put it back at the end of the readings.
Because we know how we do it.
No, Howie. Oh, okay. You guys are,
Yeah, Joe and I are picking up a lot of reading.
out here, I was counting Howie as the name.
Yeah, and whatever.
So anyway, and since you didn't grow up Catholic, you do know that, so when you do the Hadra, it's a lot easier if you genuflect on the way down and genuflect on the way back in.
Yeah, the important. Yeah, the important is on the way back in, keep it vertical and touch it down against the edge of the table, still vertical.
Oh, yeah.
And then pivot it back down. Yeah, that helps a lot.
That helps a lot, yes, and that's where the genuflecting skills are useful.
Okay. Leverage.
Yeah.
Leverage and use your knees. That's the only.
All right, and the scroll.
Life's
the right
lessons.
place?
What was that?
Do we know if the scroll's in the right place? It's our first tour.
Little lie.
Relatively novice.
Hang on, I gotta get myself combobulated, so.
Let me know what time it is.
It's 9:45, 9:10 of 5 of,
We have a few minutes before we have to watch. I'll be ready in just a second.
exactly.
We'll get started in just a moment.
Do we start with Baruch Shamar?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
that's-
introduce things and get started.
Okay. Just wanted to be on the right page.
Good morning and good Shabbos, everyone. Those of you who are joining in person, it's nice to see you here today. Those of you who are joining by live stream, we welcome you into our synagogue in this electronic way. I am, hang on a second, just say it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure the microphone is doing much. I am Steve Schmidt. I'm the Vice President for Programming and Ritual. Rabbi Rafi Spitzer is not here this week because he is out on family leave, so a big mazel tov to the Spitzer family if they are watching us. And wishing you all the best as you celebrate your new arrival. We are going to begin our service on page 54 with Baruch Shamar.
Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam Baruch Hu. Baruch Aseh Bereshit, Baruch Hamer v'yaseh, Baruch Hazer Mekayim, Baruch Mechem al ha'oretz, Baruch Mechem al ha'briot, Baruch Mishalem Tzatov l'reah, Baruch Ha'ilad V'kayom L'netzach, Baruch Podeh U'matzil, Baruch Shemaho, Baruch Adonai Melech. Yachid Chehol Mimelch Mishuvah Mfa'ah De'at Shmo HaGadol, Baruch Atah Adonai Melech Behulal Batish Bachot.
We continue on page 334 with Nishmat.
Nishmat Kol Chai Tivorech Et Shimcha. Mi yidmelach, umi yishvelach, umi yarach lach. Ha'el Agadol Gibor v'hanora, El Elyon, Konei Shamayim v'haaretz. Nehalelchon unshabechachon v'rechon v'rech et shim kadshecha kamur. LeDavid Baruch nafshi et Adonai v'chol kirovai et shem kadsho. Ha'el b'zat mozecha. Olisei Ramanisa Shochen ad marom v'kadosh shmo v'chatu v'tzadikim B'hafi sharim tit halal uv'divrei tzadikim tit barach uvilshon hasidim tit romam uv'kerev kedoshim tit kadash Umachalo rivavot amcha beit Yisrael. Shechein chavat kol ha'yitzurim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'lehei avoteinu lehodot l'halel l'shabech l'forer l'romim l'hader l'varech l'halel l'kales al kol divrei shirot b'tishbachot David ben Yishai avdecha meshichecha.
We rise on page 338.
Yishtabach Shimcha Lad Malkeinu Brachot v'hodot me'atav yad olam Baruch atah Adonai El Melech Gadol Batishbachot El Ahodot Adon Haniflaot Habocher b'shirei zimra melech elchei ha'olamim Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah V'yamad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechonu v'yomecho uv'chayei chol beit Yisrael Bagala, Bagala, Uvizman Korif, Limeru, Amen. Heshmei Rabba Mevorach, Yolam no Meomaya, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vipar, Vitramam, Yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yithalev, V'yithalal, Shmei Kudusha Barichu Li'elam in Kol Berchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Dahamihiran Bialma, V'yimeru, Amen.
The Baruch is on page 340.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech Oseh Shalom Uvorei et Hakol. Kol Yodua V'Hal Yachol Yishabachucha. In kercha v'in zulatcha efes biltcha umida melach. In kercha Adonai Eloheinu b'olam hazeh v'in zulatcha malkeinu l'chai olam haba. Efes biltcha go'aleinu mot Mashiach v'in do melech Moshienu l'tchiat hametim. El Adon al kol ha'maasim Baruch Baruch b'fi kol neshama Gadlo v'tuvo malei olam dat utfuna sofa v'imoto habit goe al chayot hakodesh v'nedor bechavod al hamerkava zechut umishor lifnei hiso pesed v'rachamim lifnei kevodo tovim miorot shabara Eloheinu yitzaram bedat V'vinov haskel koach ugvura natan bahem liot moshlim bekerev tevel melehem ziv umefikim noga noezivam bechol olam smechim b'tzeitam b'sosim bevoam osim b'ei moritzon konam v'yer v'chavo notnim lishmo Tahalav arena l'zecher malchuto kara l'shemesh vayizrachor ra'a v'hit kin tzurat halvona shevach notnim lo kol tzeva maharom tiferet ugedula Srafim yofanim bechayot hakodesh El asher shavad Titporach Torenu Malkeinu v'Goaleinu.
Page 344.
Kulam Ovim, Kulam Berorim, Kulam Giborim, V'Kulam Odim Be'emo V'Yirav Etzon Kohonam, V'Kulam Podim Bihem B'Kedusha V'Tahara, V'Shira Uvzimra, Umborachim Shabachim Farim, Umaritzim Umakdishim Umahmlichim, Et Shem Hoel HaMelech HaGadol. Lakdish Le'atram B'nachat Ruach, B'Safa B'Rabinima Kurusha, Kulam Gecharonim B'Yamrim B'Yirah, Kadosh, 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 Adonai, Tzvaot, Melech HaOretz Kevodo. V'haofanim v'chayot hakodesh, Barash gadol minasim liumat rafim, liumatam mishabachim v'yomrim, Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo. Mekadesh betuvo b'chol yom tamid. Maaseh Bereshit. Kamor lioseh orim gedolim. Ki leolam hasdo. Or chadash al Tzion Ta'ir. V'nizkech ulanu mehero lioro. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer hamiorot. Ahavo Rabbo ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chemla Gedola V'Tera Hamalta Aleinu Ahavinu Malkeinu Ba'avur Avoteinu Shebatchu Becha Avinu Malkeinu Vatlamdem Pukei Chaim Kein Techanenu Tlamdenu Havinu Ha'av Harachaman Hamrachem Rachem Aleinu V'tein Pelibenu Lehavin Lavin Ulaskil Lishmoa Lil Emod Ulil Amed Lishmor Velasot Ulkayim et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha b'Yahava v'ha'erinenu v'toratecha v'dahabek l'beinu b'mitzvotecha v'yached lehevavenu v'yahava uliro et shemecha v'lo nevosh Liolam vaed, lo nevosh, liolam vaed. Shem kachcha, hagadol anora batachnu, nagila v'nismecha, Nagila v'nismecha v'shuatecha v'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz v'toholichenu kol memiut li'artzenu Ki el poel Yeshuot uvanu b'charta b'kalam v'lashon v'keraftanu l'shimcha hagadol Selah, Selah be'emet lodot lecha u'yachedcha b'yahava Baruch atah Adonai, Abocher b'yamo Yisrael b'yahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, V'chol vavcha, v'chol nafshecha, v'chol meodecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al vavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shiftecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha b'derech, uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha, Ukshartam leot al yadecha, ve'hayu l'tadafot b'neinecha, uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'v'hisharecha, ve'hayayim shabbat. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot Lachem Le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem Emet. Emet b'yazvon Dor v'ador hukayim mishmo chayam chiso nachan malchuto ve'emunato la'ad kayamet udvarav chayim v'kayamim. Emet shatu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elahei Avotenu Malkeinu Melech Avotenu Goalenu Goel Avotenu Yotzreinu Tzu Yeshuatenu Podenu Matzilenu Me'olam Shemecha En Elohim Zulatecha Ezrat Avotenu Atahu Me'olam. Alzot, shibhu ahuvim, veromemu, 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 veromemu el, veromemu, 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 veromemu el, v'notnu l'yedidim, Zmirot, shirot, b'tishbachot, berachot, v'hodaot, melech el chai v'kayom. Ram v'nisa, gadol v'nahora, mashpil geim u'magbiya shefalim, motzi asirim ufodei anavim, v'ozer dalim, v'on eliamo, b'yet shavam elav, tehilot l'helyon, baruch baruch Moshe u'bnei Yisrael, l'chana shira, b'simcha rabba, v'yomru chulam, Mi kamocha bo'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neder b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei feleh. Shira chadasha shibhu geolim, shimcha asfat hayom, yachad kulam hodu v'imlichu v'yamru, Adonai imloch le'olam voed. Tur Yisrael, kuma b'ezrat Yisrael, uvteiknu mecha, Yuda v'Yisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tzvaot shemo, kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, go al Yisrael.
The Amidah begins on page 354. We do the first three verses together, and then we complete the rest silently.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Poked Moshiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Poked Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye Meitim Atara V'Oshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye Meitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Choholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afor Mocha Bal Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Meimid Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua Nemanata Lachayo Meitim Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayeh HaMeitim Mekadesh et Shimcha Ba'olam Keshem Shemakdishim Oto Bishmei Marom Kakatuv Ayad Neviecha V'Korazel Zeviamar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzvaot Melech HaOretz Kivodo Az B'Kol Rash Gadol Adir V'Chazak Mashmim Kol Mitnasim Umat Serafim Liumat Amaruch Yomeru Baruch Vod Adonai Mimkomo Mimkom Malkeinu Tofia V'Timloch Aleinu Kimcha Anachnu Loch Moatai Timloch Betzion Mikarov Yameinu Li'olam Va'ed Tishkon Tit Gadal V'Tit Kadash Toch Yerushalayim Yircha Ledor Vador Ulnetzach Netzachim Ve'einenu tirena malhutecha kadavar ha'amur b'shirei uzecha al yedei David Moshiach tzidkecha Yimloch Adonai le'olam el Zion l'dor v'dor hallelujah L'dor v'dor nagid gadlecha L'netzach nitzachim b'dushacha nakdish V'shifacha Eloheinu v'pinu Elohim Moshe olam bo'ed Ki amel kadol v'kadosh atah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh
Our service continues on page 392 with Kaddish Shalem.
Yitkadav, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'amad Ibrachirute, v'amlich Malchute, v'chayechon, uv'yomechon, uv'chayedcha Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, Ubizman Kori Vimeru, Amen. Yeshmei Rabba Mevorach, Leolam Yomei Amaya, Yitbarach Vishtabach, V'yitpar V'yitramam Yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yithalev, V'yithalal, Shmei Dekudesha B'rechu, Le'ela min kol bechata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiran b'yoma, v'yimeru amen. Titkabel zelothan, uva'uthon, decho Yisrael, kadam avuon, di bishmaya, V'yimeru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimeru amen. Aseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen.
At this point in our service, we turn back in our prayer books to page 32, where we'll find the Psalm for Shabbat.
Hayom yom Shabbat kodesh shabu hayu halvim omrim beveit hamikdash. Tzadikatamar yifrach ke'ered bavanan yishke shetulim beveit Adonai behatrod Eloheinu yafrihu od yenuvon b'sheva Shenim Ranenim Yehu Lehagi Yashor Adonai Suri Velo Avlatabo.
Kaddish Avelim is found on page 52. Those who are in mourning or those who are observing a yard site today, please stand at this time and join me in the middle of page 52 for Kaddish Avelim. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirute, ve'amlich malchute, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chaye dekol Beit Yisrael, va'agala u'vizman kariv imru, amen.
Amen. Hishmei Rabba Mavarach Le'olam Amei Omaya.
Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudashah,
Richu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen.
Amen.
Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
Amen.
Service continues on page 394 with the service for the taking out of the Torah.
En kamocha bo Elohim Adonai, v'en kemasecha, malchutecha, malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam voed, Adonai oz li'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom, av harachamim, tiva b'rtzon ha'et Zion, tivne v'cha Yerushalayim, Ivnecha Hama Yerushalayim, Ki v'cha levad v'tachnu, Melech Elram v'nisa, Adon Olamim.
We rise as the ark is opened on page 394.
I'm giving sorrow, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, Ve'afutzu oivecha, Ve'yanusu mesanecha mipanecha, Ki mitzion te'seh Torah, Ki mitzion te'seh Torah, Udevar Adonai, Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Nase, Chol Rosh, Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'adam Raglav Kadoshu,
Romemu,
Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'ishtachavu, Ve'hakadosh ki kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu.
The Torah is down. You may be seated. Good morning and Shabbat. Good Shabbos to everybody. Those who are joining us by live stream, it's good to have you with us today. I am Steve Schmidt. I am Vice President for Ritual and Programming. You will have noticed that Rabbi Spitzer is not here. He is out on family leave. We are very happy for that. We wish him and his family, his extended family, they're doing very well today. We are going to do things a little differently than we normally do at this time.
What do you know?
Dan's
I think we should take the mark.
We're going to do things a little differently than we normally do at this time because of the pandemic. Instead of lifting the Torah at the end of the Torah reading, we're going to do it now. This is because the people who are taking the Aliyot will not be able to come up and see the Torah scroll for themselves because we have to maintain social distance with the readers. And in order for them to see the words of the scroll that are going to be read in their name, we're going to lift it now. So those of you who have been offered Aliyot and have accepted, please focus for a moment as you see the words go up, because those are the words that are being read in honor of your Aliyah. So we'll hope that you will be able to, a little bit of kavanah, a little bit of concentration on those as they come up. You won't be able to see them perfectly, but that's okay. Dan Mayer is going to do our lift. Please rise. V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe Livnei b'nei Yisrael, al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Table down. You can be seated. The portion for this week is Parshat Miketz. It is the continuation of the Joseph story, which began in the last week's portion and will continue for several more weeks to come. It's fairly familiar to us because of certain musicals that you might have seen, and it's a story we tell a lot. So I won't try to recap the whole thing here. You'll see it as we go along. But I will say that one of the central points of this week's reading is that after the famine strikes the Holy Land and the brothers are forced to come down to Egypt to ask for food, where there's plenty of food to be had because Joseph, interpreting dreams for Pharaoh, foresaw that there would be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of hardship, and stored up grain from the years of plenty so that it would be available during the years of hardship. It wasn't available anywhere else, but it was available in Egypt. And as the brothers came down, and Joseph recognized that his brothers had come down, but Joseph had changed so much, they didn't recognize him, he was unsure how to relate to them. As if you had been sold into slavery and then 24 years had gone by, you would probably not be really sure how to get back together with your family again. So he decides to put them to the test. And in fact, in this portion, he's going to put them to 2 tests. The first one we'll see in this portion is that he asks them to bring Benjamin down with him. Benjamin is his only full brother. The others are brothers of the same father but different mothers. And so he's got a special concern not only for Benjamin as a closer relation, but also because Benjamin, whatever his brothers were angry about with him, he may be concerned that they mistreated Benjamin as well. So he really wants to test to be sure, first of all, that they will bring him down, and that's the first test that we see in this portion. And second of all, that if he demands that they abandon Benjamin, that they will not abandon Benjamin in the same way that they abandoned him. And our portion ends right on the edge of finding out whether the brothers will pass that test or not. So to hear the end of the story, you'll have to come back next week. Our portion that we're going to read today begins on page 257. It is chapter 41, beginning at verse 53, and our Torah reader this morning is Eliana Moses. I want to just attach a quick note. Our Torah reading has been struck by COVID and COVID quarantines. The person who we had hoped would read some of this portion this morning is not here today, is not able to be here today. So we have some readers who are pinch hitting on fairly short notice, and we really, really appreciate their stepping up to do this and to do these readings, which are not short readings this week. So I want to give them some thanks in advance for being able to do that for us. Going to turn to page 257, verse 40, chapter 41, verse 53, and we will call our Kohen, or our Rishon. I guess I'll do it. Av harachamim hu yerachem al mustin v'zachar barina v'yizkor bari. What? Oh, I'm on the wrong place. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Ve'yazor ve'yagin ve'yoshia lechol hasibo v'nomar amen hakol havu godel Eloheinu v'utnu kavod l'Torah Rishon binkom Kohen Nachman ben Abraham Achunen Rishon Baruch Natan Torah L'Emo Yisrael B'Kedushato
I have one.
Oh, you got one?
Yeah. Thanks, sir.
Amen. Vatchilena sheva shnei hasava asher haya be'eretz Mitzrayim. Vatchilena sheva shnei hara'av lavo asher amar Yosef vayhi ra'av b'chol ha'aratzot v'chol eretz Mitzrayim haya lachem. Vatirav kol eretz Mitzrayim v'yitzak ha'am el Paro lelachem, vayomer Paro lechol Mitzrayim, lechu el Yosef, asher yomar lachem, ta'asu, hara'av, haya, al kol panei ha'aretz, vayiftach Yosef, et kol ha'asher bahem, vayishbor leMitzrayim, vaychazak hara'av be'eretz Mitzrayim v'chol ha'aretz ba'u mitzrama lishbor el Yosef ki chazak hara'av b'chol ha'aretz.
Ya'amod hasheni, ta'amod hasheni. Ta'amod Shoshana v'chaim v'fega hasheni. Vayar Yaakov ki yashaver b'Mitzrayim, vayomer Yaakov levanav lama titra'u, vayomer hine shamati ki yashaver b'Mitzrayim, ridu shama v'shivru lanu misham, v'nichya v'lo namut, vayardu acha Yosef asara lishbor bar mitzrayim, ve'binyamin achi Yosef lo shalach Yaakov et echav ki amar pen yikra'enu ason, vayavo'u b'nei Israel lishbor v'tol chabayim ki haya hara'av
be'eretz Canaan. Oh, ki hara'av be'eretz Canaan.
Talmud, Yocheved, Bat Yochanan, Zahava, Shlishi. I'm supposed to know that one. The third aliyah is on page 258 at verse 6. This is where we will see Joseph and his brothers meet up for the first time, and Joseph will treat his brothers rather harshly. It is a sign, perhaps, that when trust in people is destroyed, as is certainly Joseph's trust in his brothers was destroyed, it's very hard to rebuild it and put it back together. And Joseph is not going to be prepared to treat his brothers the way he should, even after all that's happened, for a very long time, is what the story is going to show us.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Vaed.
Amen. V'Yosef, hu hashalit al haaretz, hu hamasbir l'chol am haaretz, vayavo achei Yosef, v'yishtachavu lo apayim arza. Vayar Yosef el Echav, vayikarem, vayitnacher Elohim, Elechem, vaydaber itam kashot. Vayomer Alechem me'ayin batem, vayomru mi'eretz Canaan, lishbor ohel. Vayacher Yosef et Echav, v'chem lo, I got it, hikiruchu. Vayischar Yosef el et, Vayischar Yosef et hacholomot asher halem lachem, vayomer alehem meraglim atem lirot et eravat haaretz batem. Vayomer alav lo adoni v'avadcha va'u lishbor ochel kulanu b'nei ish echad nachnu kenim anachnu lo hayu avdecha meraglim. Vayomer alechem lo ki ervat haaretz batem lirot. Vayomru shneim asar avdecha achim anachnu b'nei ish echad be'eretz Canaan. V'hinei hakatan et avinu hayom v'he'echad et nena. Vayomer alechem Yosef hu asher dibanu alechem. Asher dibarti alechem lemor meraglim atem. Bezot tibachenu Faro im tetzu mize kim im bevo achachem hakatan kinei chena shelchu michem echad vayichak et achichem v'yatem heasru vayivachanu divrechem ha'emet itchem v'im lo chefaro ki magraglim atem v'yalsof otam al mishmar shloshet yamim vayomar alechem Yosef biyom hashlishi zot asu v'chyu et ha'elohim ani yarei. Go for it.
Amen. Talmud. The fourth aliyah is on page 260, and it begins at verse 19.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
אמן. אם כן עתה אחיכם אחד יאסר בבית משמרכם ואתם לכו הביאו שבר רבון בתיכם ואת אחיכם הקטן תביאהו אלי ואמנו דבריכם ולא תמותו ויעשו כן ויאמרו איש אל אחיו אבל אשמים אנחנו על אחינו אשר ראינו שרף נפשו בחטאנו אלינו ולא שמענו על כן באה אלינו חצרה הזאת ויען ראובן אותם לאמור הלא אמרתי עליכם לאמור אל תחטאו בילד ולא שמעתם וגם דמו הנה נדרש וכם לא ידעו כי שומע יוסף כי חלמליץ בנותם ויסוף מעליכם ויבך וישוב עליכם וידבר עליכם ויקח מאיתם את שמעון ויאסור אותה לעיניכם ויצב יוסף וימלאו את כליכם ולחשוב בכספיכם איש אל שקו ילתת לכם לתת okay it's לתת okay דלתת or לתת דלתת לכם שדת לדרך ויעשה לכם כן ויעשו את שברם על חמוריכם וילכו משם ויפתח אחד את שקו לתת מספו לחמורו במלון וירא את כספו והנה הוא כפי עם תחתו ויאמר אל אחיו הושב כספי וגם הנה בעמתי ויצא ליבם וחרדו איש אל אחיו אחיו לאמור מה זאת עשה אלוהים לנו there was a little piece of dust on the vase of locate. I couldn't see it. That's why I asked.
The fifth aliyah is on page 262, and it begins at verse 29.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Amen. ויבואו אל יעקב אביכם ארצה כנען ויגדידו לו את כל הקורות אותם לאמור דיבר האיש אדוני הארץ איתנו קשות וייתן אותנו כמרגלים את הארץ ונאמר עליו כנים אנחנו לא חיינו מרגלים 12 אנחנו אחים בני אבינו אחד איננו והקטן היום את אבינו בארץ כנען ויאמר אלינו האיש אדוני הארץ בזאת עדה כי כנים אתם אחיכם אחד הננחו איתי ואת רבון בתיכם קחו וילכו והביאו את אחיכם הקטן אלי ועדה כי לא מרגלים אתם כי כנים אתם את אחיכם אתן לכם, ואת הארץ תסחרו. ויהיכם הם מריקיכם שכיכם, והנה איש סורה כספו בשכו, ויראו את סורות כספיכם חמה, ואביכם ויראו. ויאמר עליכם יעקב אביכם, אותי שכלתם, ויוסף איננו ושמעון איננו, ואת בנימין תיקחו אלי חיו כולנה. ויאמר ראובן אל אביו לאמור, את שני בני תמית, אם לא אבינו אליך, תנה אותו על ידי, ואני אשפיענו עליך. ויאמר לא ירד בני עמכם, כי אחיו מת וכו' לבדו נשאר. וכרתכו אסון בדרך אשר תלכו בה, והורדתם את שיבתי ביגון שאולה.
Amen. Sixth aliyah?
Me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yahod Yosef ben Abraham Sarah Ashli Hashishi. It's interesting to see when the brothers come back and talk to their father Jacob, how he responds. He has a way of taking all of the news personally, say, it's you that is, you're making me suffer because of all of this, and doesn't seem to really perceive that the rest of the world is suffering on account of this too. We saw him react that way in the end of this reading, and we'll see it again in the coming reading. The sixth aliyah is on page 263, and it is chapter 43, verse 1.
Oh, by the way, Steve, the sixth aliyah actually begins about 3 lines away, down from the bottom here on this column. Center column.
I'll find it when I get there.
Yep.
Do you leave me the
Do you know one of these?
Yeah, I do. I'll bring mine on.
A little bit more awkward these days.
These were so much fun. We're in a section of the Torah which is column upon column upon column with no breaks, so it's unusually difficult to find where the readings are today. Got it. Baruch Barak Le'olam Va'ed. Amen. Amen. Ve'harav kaved ba'aretz, vayhi kasher kilu le'echol et hashever, asher heviu mimitzrayim. Vayomer alehem avihem, shuvu shivru lanu me'at ochel. Vayomer elav Yehuda lemor, ha'ed he'id, banu ha'ish lemor, lo tiru fanai, bilti achichem itchem. Im yeshcha ha'mishaleach et achinu, anachnu, Itanu neherdav nishbara lecha ha'ochel ve'imencha ha'mishaleach lo nered ki ha'ish amar elenu lo tiru fanai bilti achichem itchem. Vayomer Yisrael, lama hariotem li, lehagid la'ish, ha'od lachem ach. Vayomru shoal shal ha'ish lanu ulemoladteinu lemor aod avichem chai hayesh lachem ach v'naged lo al pi hadvarim ha'ela hayado aneda ki yomar horidu et achichem. That's me. Call me. The seventh aliyah is found on, I don't know what page it is, but it's chapter 43, verse 264. It's chapter 43, verse 8. All right, now I'm wearing three hats at once. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen. Vayomer Yehuda el Yisrael aviv shel chahanar iti unakuma v'nelecha v'nichye v'lo namut gam anachnu gam ata gam tapenu. Anochi ervenu miyadi tavakshenu imlo haviotehiv elecha vehitzagtihiv lefanecha vechatati lecha kol hayamim kilule hitmamanu ki ata hashavnu zefa amihim. Vayomer alehem Yisrael avihem im kenefo zotasu kehu mizamra ta'aretz bilchechem vehoridu la'ish mincha me'at sori u'me'at devash nechohot valot botnim ushkedim V'chesef mishnei kechu v'hu yadchem ve'et ha'kesef hamushav b'fihi am techotechem tashivu v'yadchem ulai mishkehu ve'et achichem kachu v'akumu shuvu el ha'ish ve'el shaddai yitain lachem rachamim lifnei ha'ish ve'shilach lachem et achichem acher ve'et binyamin va'ani ka'asher shachalti Vayikachu ha'anashim et hamincha hazot umishnei kesef lakechu v'yadam ve'et binyamin vayakumu vayerdu mitzrayim ve'ya'amdu lifnei Yosef. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. We open the ark for the healing prayer. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha berach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka v'Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech v'yirapeh et chalchochim. Zahava Nimcha Bat Leah Barucha, Michal Ruth Bat Tova, Malka Bat Golda, Eric Hurst, Michael Roberts, Linda Pearlstein, Bob Pearlstein, Chaim Ben Eliezer V'Yocheved, Omari Gray, Yosef Ben Fega Malka, Yoreh Bat Avraham B'Sarah, Kyle Scheffler, Cecilia Lynn, Robert Borisowitz, Shmuel Ben Yehudit, Ephraim Ben Lota Ruchala, Riva Bela Bat Avram Chaim Veresa, Stuart Green, Yitzhak Dov Ben Chana, Chana Bat Odette, Yehoshua Avraham Ben Chana, Yehuda Ben Chaya Itarachel, Mina Bat Aliza, Menachem Man Ben Ita Leah V'Binyamin HaKohen, Serna Liba Bat Golachaya, Gabriel Mordechai Ben Pessi, Malcha Bat Sheva, Julia Shantz, Fega Leah Bat Minsa Surah, Dinsa Bat Liba, Surah, Chaya Sarah Bat Rochel, Eliezer Avraham Ben Chaim Yehuda, Shai Aviad Ben Balfura, Dina Bat Fegala, Yakira Bat Dvorachana, Leah Simcha Bat Dvorachana, Chaya Bracha Bat Dvorachana, Mary Alice Hunt, Dvorachana Bat Dina, Aliza Bat Dina, Bluma Bat Gittel, Charles Ben Evelyn, Miriam Batya Mibed Shmuel, Eliyahu Ben Rachel, Rivka Gittel Bat Sarah, Shlomo Moshe Ben Miriam, Yita Masha Bat Rochel, Miriam Bat Sarah, Gila Menua Bat Barucha Gital, Shalom Ben Chaya, Bill Bracken, Akiva Ben Gittel, Miriam Bat Malka, Eliyahu Bat Malka, Charles Wagenheim, Risha, Shoshana Bat Hana, Na'ava Bat Tilly, Ranana Bat Malka, Rivka Aliza Bat Ranana. V'kol ha'cholim b'kahala ha'kadosha hazot ha'kadosh baruch hu yimaleh rachamim aleihem v'hachzirikam ulerofe tam v'yishlach lahem refuah shlema min hashamayim refuat haguf refuat hanefsh refuat haguf l'chol avreihem v'gideihem b'tok sha'ar cholei Yisrael v'ha'olam v'chazak et yidei ha'oskim b'tzarcheihem shabachi milizuk v'harfoa karova lavo hashtaba agala v'zman kariv v'nomar amen. Mishe be'rach imotenu mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We rise for half Kaddish. That's right. Half by close to it. Yikada v'yikada shmei rabba v'yalmad yivrach yirute v'yamlik malchute b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala u'v'isman kariv v'imeru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach La'alam u'lamei almaya yitbarach V'itbarak, v'yishtabak, v'yitbar, v'yirman, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, Shmei Dekudesha Barichu, Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damihiran be'alma, v'imeru, Amen. No, don't have your Hebrew name here. Oh well. Talmud. Gila bat Moshe ve'Yora, hamaftiracha hazakah. The maftir is probably still on page 264, and it begins at verse 11. Baruch Adonai Barak le'olam va'ed. Amen. Amen. Vayomer Yisrael, Vayomer Alehem, Yisrael Avihem, Im Kenefo, Zotasu, Kechu, Mizimrat Haaretz Bichlechem, Vehoridu Laish Mincha, Ma'at Sori, Uma'at Devash, Nechot Valot, Botnim Ushkedim, V'chesef mishnei kechu b'yedchem, ve'et hakesef hamushav b'fihi am techotechem, tashivu b'yedchem, ulai mishkehu, ve'et achichem kachu, vakumu shavu el ha'ish, Ve'el Shaddai, Yitein lachem rachamim lifnei ha'ish, Ve'shilach lachem et achichem acher, ve'et binyamin, Va'ani ka'asher shachalti, Va'yikachu ha'anashim et hamincha hazot, U'mishnei kesef lakechu v'yadam, ve'et binyamin, Va'yakumu vayerdu Mitzrayim, vayamdu lifnei Yosef. Amen. At this point, put the scroll away and wipe down. Yeah. There really are other people in the room here. It's not, it's just that I'm the one who owns the beamer right now, and that's the way it is. All right, now we do this. Normally the rabbi would be introducing the Haftorah over there, and I will be doing that shortly, but there are just only so many things I can do at once. All right. All right. Oh, hang on. Put that book out there. The Haftorah today is one that isn't read all that often because Shabbat of Parshat Miketz is often the Shabbat of Hanukkah, and so it gets displaced by the Haftorah for Hanukkah. But this year, Hanukkah came earlier in the reading rotation than usual, so we read it last week, and that means this year we do get to read the Haftorah for for Parshat Miketz. It is a story that will be familiar to most of you because it is the story of the wisdom of King Solomon, where two mothers, one of whose children has died in the night, comes to King Solomon. Each one is claiming to be the mother of the surviving child, and Solomon demonstrates his wisdom to the people by revealing which one is the true mother, by asking them what they would do if he proposed to kill the child. And to most people, this is a nice story, but if you study game theory, as I have, then this is what we call an incentive compatibility mechanism. He has to induce each of these players, the mothers, to send a signal about what the truth is in such a way that the one who is the true mother will make the response that the true mother would make, and the one who is not the true mother would make a different response that is the right one for the not true mother to make, so that he can tell them apart. And as I looked at the story through that lens, I asked myself, what would Solomon do if the false mother had said, no, give it to the other one? Because then both of the mothers would have sent the same signal, and Solomon wouldn't have been able to tell which one was the true mother. And I don't know what would have happened in that case because the Haftorah doesn't tell us, but it does seem to me like we might be looking at some kind of non-equilibrium play of the game. And as an economist, that disturbs me. However, the point of the Haftorah is that Solomon was established as the king of Israel. He'd already become king by wiping out all the other contenders to the throne, but that was before the Haftorah, and at this point, it's his demonstration of his wisdom that says, now he's really king. And well, if it told us before that he'd been established as king, what is it telling us now that he is now really king? And the answer is that unlike many kings in the history of Israel, his rule was truly accepted. He was really, truly a king because the people accepted him as a king, and that had not been necessarily true of other rulers before or certainly after. And that's the connection between the Haftorah and the Torah portion, is that the Torah portion establishes Joseph as the ruler over Egypt. The Haftorah establishes Solomon as the true and accepted ruler over the kingdom of Israel. Gila? Page 271.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hanemarin be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'b'mdi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Vayiked Shlomo v'hinei chalom v'yavo Yerushalayim v'yamad lifnei Aaron brit Adonai v'ya'al alo v'yashlamim v'yad mishteh l'chol avodav az tavana shatim nashim zanot el hamelech v'tamodna lefanav V'tomer ha'isha ha'achat bi Adoni ani va'isha hazot yishbo b'bayit echad v'yeled ima b'bayit v'yehi v'yom ha'shlishi liliditi v'teled gam ha'isha hazot V'anachnu yachdav ein zar itanu b'bayit zulati shtayim anachnu b'bayit v'yamad ben ha'isha hazot laila asher shichva alav v'ta'akam b'toch ha'laila v'tikach Epnei me'etzli ve'amatcha yeshena ve'tashki ve'hu v'cheika v'yet v'nahamet hashkiva v'cheiki ve'ukam baboker ve'lehenik et b'nei ve'hinei meit v'yet bonein Ela baboker v'hinei lo haya b'ni asher yaladati v'tomer ha'isha echad lo ki
b'ni hachai ub'nei chamet, v'zot omeret lo ki b'nei chamet ub'nei hachai, v'tidabarna lifnei hamelech, v'yomer hamelech zot omeret, ze b'nei hachai ub'nei chamet, v'zot omeret lo ki b'nei chamet ub'nei hachai. Vayomer hamelech kechu li cherev, vayavohu hacherev lifnei hamelech, vayomer hamelech gazru et hayeled achai leshanim, utnu et hachatzi leachat, v'et hachatzi lachat, vatomer ha'isha asher b'na hachai el hamelech, ki nemechru rachmeha el baneha, vatomer bi'adoni tenula et hayelud hachai, v'yamet al timtuhu, v'zot omeret gamli gam lechalach lo yeh gozru, vaya'an hamelech vayomer tenula et hayelud hachai, v'amet lo timtuhu himo, vayishmo mishmeu kol Yisrael et mishpat asher shvat hamelech v'yiru mipnei hamelech, ki rahu ki chachmat Elohim birkirbo la'asog mishpat, vayihi hamelech shama melech al kol Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol ha'olamim, tzadik b'chol ha'dorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer b'yoseh, ha'madaber u'mkayim, shechol dvarav emet b'tzedek, ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, ne'emanim dvarecha, v'arecha midvarecha, achar lo yeshuv rekam, ki al melech ne'eman b'rechaman atah, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman b'chol dvarav. Rachem al Tzion ki hiveit chayenu, lulat nefesh toshia b'mheira b'yameinu, Baruch atah Adonai, v'sameach Tzion b'vaneha. Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu, v'Eliyahu hanavi avtecha, b'malchut b'it David mishichecha, b'mheira yava v'yagel libeinu, al kiso lo yeshev zar, lo yinchalu od acherim et bodo, ki v'shem kadsha nishbata lo, shelo yechben ora le'olam ba'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David. Al Torah, v'al havodah, v'al nevi'im, v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, l'kedusha u'limnucha, l'chavod u'letiferet. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
I'd like to thank Gila for a wonderful Haftorah. I'd like to thank our Torah readers of the morning, Eliana Moses and Joseph Shang, for their, and me, for them, and to Dan Mayer for leading Shakrit. Thank you very much. We're going to turn, those of us who have it, which is probably very few, to the blessings we seek, which if you have the Shabbat-only prayer book, it should be pasted in the back cover. Source of blessing, our guardian of hope, bless, we pray, all who are dear to us. Watch over them with your protecting love. Bless the people of this congregation. Grant them health of body and serenity of spirit. Guide them on the path of Torah and good deed. Bless our country, our leaders, and our fellow citizens. Keep us faithful to our heritage of freedom and justice. Help us banish all suffering and strife. Bless our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. Prosper the work of their hands and minds. Strengthen them and grant them peace. Bless our fellow Jews wherever they may dwell. Comfort those who are in distress. Deliver them speedily from darkness to light. Bless all your children in every land and community. Unite them in understanding and mutual happiness. Hasten the day when all can rejoice in a world of peace. We turn to the other book, page 420 for Ashrei, and Rena Moses leads us.
Ashrei Ashrei Veitecha, Ojalu Hasela,
Ashrei ha'am shekachalo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohav.
Techilat leDavid, Armim Chalhaicha Melech, V'Avracha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
V'chol yom avarcheka, v'ahalal hashimcha le'olam va'ed.
Gedol Adonai Olam Me'od, Ve'likulato in Cheker.
Dor l'dor yishabach ma'asecha, u'gevurotecha yagidu.
Hadar Kevod Chodecha, Udiver Nifotecha Asicha.
Ve'ezuz nerotecha yomeru, u'geduatecha asaprena.
Zecharav tu Chayaviyu, V'tzidcha Chayiranenu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech hapayim ugdol chased.
Tov Adonai Lakol, V'rachamav al Kol Ma'asav.
Ka'yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yevarchucha.
Kevod Malchutecha Yomeru, Ugvuratcha Yidaberu.
Lehodi lifnei ha'adam gevurotav, u'kvod hadar malchutoho.
Malchutecha Malchut Kol Amim, Umemshaltecha V'chol Dor V'ador.
Somech Adonai lechol hanoflihim, v'zokev lechol hakfufihim.
Einei Kol Echa Yisaberu, Ve'atamnoten Lachem Et Ochlam Ve'ito.
Poteach et yadecha, u'maspil lechol chayrat sohon.
Tzadik Adonai V'chol Dracha, V'chasid V'chol Ma'asav.
Karov Adonai lechol korahav, lechol asher yikrohu ve'emet.
Retzon Yiriav Yaseh, Ve'et Shabbatan Yishman V'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai et kol ohavaha, ve'et kol harshayim yashmihid.
Techilat Adonai Yidaber Pi, V'varech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Elam Va'ed.
Va'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata ve'ad olam, hallelujah. We rise as the ark is opened and the Torah is picked up for the return. Actually, I think just picking up the Torah at start. Actually, maybe you better open the ark now. let's proceed a little bit, but let's make sure you don't do that with it as well. Okay, and take the ark as well. All right. I think we go directly to page 426 for Uvuko Yomar. No, you want to do the? You want to do some more of the theme? Sorry? Oh, Hallelujah. Yes, of course. Hallelujah is my mistake.
Where's that?
Hallelujah.
Yehalu et Shem Adonai, Ki niskav Shemo Levado.
Livnei Israel, Am Krovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Mizmor LeDavid. Ha'ul Adonai Beneli. Ha'ul Adonai Ba'os. Ha'ul Adonai Hod Shemo. Yishtachavu Adonai Kodesh. Kol Adonai al Hamayim, El Hakavot Hirim, Adonai al Mayim Ravim. Vayefarzo, Kemelech, Versirion, and on the rain. כי לכך טוב נתתי לכם, קראתי אל תעזבו.
I'd like to welcome people who have recently joined us. Welcome to Congregation Agudat Achim, Shabbat Morning Services. Rabbi Rafi Spitzer is not with us here today because he is out on his maternity leave, or his paternity leave in his case, I suppose. We are very, very glad to have him there, much as we would like to have him here. Better he should be where he is, and we are wishing him Mazal Tov and all the best to him and his family. In his absence, we have asked Dr. Joseph Shang to share a Devar Torah with us, and I'm going to turn matters over to Joseph. Yeah, I think from down there is the right thing under the circumstances. You got green light?
I've got a green light.
Fantastic. We have one from these two.
So as my friend and study partner mentioned, this week is Parshat Miketz, which always falls around the time of Hanukkah. And it's yet another installment in the series of cliffhanger parshiot that comprise the Joseph novella that make up much of the latter half of Bereshit. So last week in Parshat Vayeshev, we had Joseph being sold into slavery, rising to find himself well situated, only to be falsely accused, tossed into prison, and having his fate rest in the hands of a butler with memory issues. This week, Joseph is sprung from the big house to become Pharaoh's right-hand man and starts building a life for himself, a life that is intentionally distinct from the past. And you can see that. I mean, that the text comes and tells us that in choosing the names of his son, his firstborn son, Menashe, ki naseh Elohim et kol amali, that God has made me forget my father's house. I mean, everything that bad that happened there, I've forgotten about. Thank you, God. And then his second son, ki hifrani Elohim ba'aretz oni, that I forget. The second son, it's that I have been fruitful in the land of my suffering. Right? Think he's moving on? So having made a new life for himself, he's now, he's all set. He's got a wife, he's got kids, he probably has a dog and a white picket fence to go along with it. Or a cat, yes, it's Egypt. And he's demonstrated an extremely high level of competence dealing with the crises of his day, a worldwide famine. His brothers walk into his life again. And to really, so we're going to take a little pause here because that's kind of where our Torah reading today, the section we read from, began. But to understand kind of what happens next, I think it's helpful to go back a few parshiot and kind of sort of ask, how did we get here? And so really, one starting place is Parshat Toledot, way back when we're talking about Isaac. And to look at the choices that Esau made. So we are explicitly told in the text that Esau's choice of Canaanite women to be his wives caused great distress to both Rebekah and Isaac. Esau only acknowledges distress to his father. But it's also implied in the text that Esau's choices were, let's just say, not ideal. And so the question is, of course, obviously, who was Esau supposed to marry? Well, he was supposed to marry Leah. In fact, actually, Leah is described as having rakot einei, sort of soft eyes. There is a midrash that Rashi cites that the rakot really was a cause of, she had puffy eyes from crying because she had to marry this bad guy, this guy with this horrible reputation, Esau. So what happened instead? She winds up marrying Yaakov and becoming the unloved wife of Yaakov. I mean, Leah keeps having kids, and kids keep hoping that this time for sure he's going to love me now, and she is perpetually disappointed. And the problem is, and clearly play is several steps down on the pecking order from the love of Yaakov's wife, Rachel. So the problem is this whole fraught situation just kind of descends upon the next generation, where Leah's sons have to put up with watching their mother get dissed all the time, and Joseph, being the son, their half-brother, being elevated to princely status. And, it really doesn't make it any easier that Joseph has Rachel's beautiful appearance. I mean, exactly the same words in the Torah used to describe Rebecca, Rachel, and Yosef. The only change is in the gender. And Joseph is clearly talented. I mean, he has this ability to see things, to interpret dreams. So you've got this really talented kid, and you've got all this resentment. So the way the brothers deal with it, they sell Joseph into slavery, and the way Joseph deals with it is forgetting about them and moving on. So, back to our brothers reappearing in Joseph's life. He has a choice. So Joseph has a choice in front of him. He could decide to either keep moving. He could say, you know what, these guys don't recognize me. I'll sell them the goods, maybe, bat them around for a while because I got some angst to work out myself, but or just let them go, or I should reunite with them. The thing is, though, it's a critical moment in time, right? Because he has right now, if he chooses to move on, the children of Rachel and the children of Leah will go their separate ways. We will have we will basically split we'll split Israel in two, and each half will be weaker. However, it's a dilemma, because if Leah's children, if the sons of Leah still bear this grudge against the sons of Rachel, Joseph's reinserting into this family dynamic is just not going to end well. There are no ways that this is going to end well if the brothers still hate him. It just doesn't work. And he's got a little bit of signals to read here. The absence of Benjamin in this thing is not necessarily a good sign. Where's this guy? He doesn't seem to be fully integrated in the tribe. On the other hand, since he understands Hebrew, it turns out, he's able to listen in on the brothers' angst at what's happening to them and about their regret. So he devises his win-win test that we've described. He's going to arrange things so Benjamin is brought back. He'll be falsely accused of stealing his special cup. And so after a big friendly welcome, they come back, and so, okay, everything was good. And so Benjamin is going to be falsely accused and brought back. And it's a real testament to Joseph's intelligence that he kind of worked. It's pretty clear he worked a lot of how this work's going to work out. He worked a lot of the game theory out, if you would, about how this was going to work, pretty much right when the brothers showed up. And so it's a win-win. Why? Because if the sons of Leah still bear grudges towards the sons of Rachel, they're going to jump at the opportunity to get rid of Benjamin. Great, we got rid of him, and then Benjamin will be with Joseph, his older brother, and we'll be protected and out of the clutches of the brother. So that's how he wins on that side. And if the brothers pass the test, he wins as well. So we're at this great decision point. This whole chain of events that really started with Esau's bad choices is all hanging now, and it all comes down to not Joseph. Joseph just set the table. Judah. It all is going to depend upon what Judah says at the beginning of the next parsha by Yigash. Because it's a cliffhanger, I'm not going to tell you what he says. But we can think about a little bit about what's in Judah's head. It's kind of interesting, right? Because Joseph's been sending signals to his brothers. There's the return of the money for the first trip that says that everything with this guy is not up and up. There's some magic hand working here. There's, of course, the feast where Joseph makes sure that they all sit down in birth order, and Benjamin gets this huge portion. So there's something up here. And you can almost sense Judah is sensing that. And there's also sort of, I think, this non-acceptance, not only among the brothers, but even among Joseph's father, Yaakov, that Joseph isn't quite gone. One, because of the dreams that they had earlier, but also, if you look, Rashi makes this comment about when in verse 43:15, it says, your other brother, when you bring down Benjamin and your other brother. But it says aher, not ha-her. And grammatically it should be ha-her. And so Rashi makes a note that the use of aher in that verse in 43:15 is a reference to Joseph, a slip of the tongue perhaps. So, and then there's finally the words. How does Judah finally persuade Yaakov to let Benjamin go down? He doesn't make the big pledge that Reuben does. I mean, Reuben is basically sort of this exaggerated, almost car dealership. Yeah, you kill my sons. Oh, that's going to do a lot of good. if I don't bring him back. Judah's is very calm and almost very rational. Hold me accountable. God will hold my sin accountable forever. It's the pledge of someone who's calculated and knows what he's doing. He said, not any big promises. It'll be the sins on me. I'm accountable. That's it. And so I think that by the time they're hauled, Judah is also the other guy who's not actually so dumb in this story, right? In our text. And I think right at the very end of this parsha, Judah's pretty sure who he's talking to, and he's pretty sure that it might just be Joseph. And I think that colors what he's going to say in the next parsha. So I'd like to digress just a little bit, or just for a brief while, and talk about the particular religious significance and religious practices for Jews on December 25th, 2020. In Hebrew, the calendar date is Asar B'Tevet, the 10th of Tevet. Bet you're thinking something else. Which is a fast day that marks the beginning of King Nebuchadnezzar's siege of Jerusalem. The siege began in Tevet, and of course, the siege resulted ultimately in the destruction of the first temple on the 9th of Av, which is the month of the summer. So, long ways away. The 10th of Tevet is a minor fast day, which means that the primary restrictions are really to refrain from eating and drinking from dawn to dusk. And the full restrictions of a major fast day like Yom Kippur don't really apply. You can wear leather, you can go see a movie. It's just that you can't have the Chinese food. Since this year it's on a Friday, it actually intrudes a little bit into Shabbat, and then after Shabbat has already come in, about 25 minutes past sundown. Since it's a minor fast, it also is not the full 25 hours. It means that you can eat in Albany until about 5:47 a.m. in the morning, and then you should begin the fast. That means that if someone left a snack lying around late on the night of December 25th, if it just happens to be lying around and it's kosher, you can have that. It also means that since I'm not a particularly graceful faster, you may rest absolutely assured that despite the absence of any evergreen plants in my house, come December 25th, the morning of December 25th, I will run out of my room. I run early out of my room to have my usual pre-fast breakfast. It's one of six communal full fast days, or 6 communal fast days in the Jewish calendar. The other Tanit Esther, the 17th of Tammuz, the 9th of Av, which is a full major fast, Som Gedalia, which comes right after Rosh Hashanah, and of course Yom Kippur. So it always feels to me a little bit out of place on the calendar. It just kind of appears in the middle of the winter, right after Hanukkah. Tanit Esther, of course, is tied to Purim. It's tied to Esther's request to fast, and so it's got this quasi-historical basis. And so it's kind of a balance to the sort of joviality and the sort of irreverence of Purim. And the 17th of Tammuz always begins in mind fast season. Not to be confused for all you fans of Bug Bunny with rabbit season or duck season. It's fast season that really begins with the 17th of Tammuz and begins that period of introspection and reflection and tshuva that culminates, that is part of a series of fasts, the 17th of Tammuz, the 9th of Av, Som Gedalia, and finally Yom Kippur, that brings us in a spiritual state to be ready for Sukkot. And so all those fasts, it's kind of like, okay, it's fast season, I get it. I need to start working my head around the idea of tshuva. But then we have the 10th of Tevet, right in the middle. So I'd like to at least provide so what gives? So I'd like to at least provide a little bit of an answer, which is to invoke the famous principle of Agudat Achim, which is that the Jewish calendar, events that occur in the Jewish calendar, are connected somehow to the parshiot that occur around that time. And so really we should ask, what's the connection between Parshat Miketz and the 10th of Tevet? In the story of Parshat Miketz, it's this culmination of a series of events that represent an opportunity to either go one way or the other, all springing from an event that occurred long ago. The 10th of Tevet is really the beginning. It's when King Nebuchadnezzar laid siege. But the actual culmination of those events, the actual consequences of those events occur much later. And so I think the 10th of Tevet is something of a wake-up call to us to say, come, see, you still need to reflect on what is going on now and how that is laying the seeds for the future destruction that may happen. It doesn't have to happen, but may happen if you let events play out in a certain way. And so we have a choice at the 10th of Tevet. We can rise to the occasion, like Judah, like Joseph, and bring ourselves together, or we can fail. And the 10th of Tevet is that wake-up call that calls us, I believe, to look for those opportunities, to read those signals, and to rise to the occasion. Shabbat Shalom.
Yeshua, thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate those words of Torah for our community. We are going to turn to page 428, where we will find the Half Kaddish that is the beginning of the Musaf service on page 430, and we'll turn things over to Rena.
Yikara v'yikara shemei Rabba v'yamal dirak yurte v'yamlich malchute v'chayecho u'yomecho u'chayecho v'Yisrael Bagala Bagala u'bizman kariv v'yimeru Amen Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach ve'olam lo me'omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha le'elal mimko birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiram v'yama v'yimeru Amen. The Musaf Amidah begins on page 430. Baruch et Adonai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagior Hanoram, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei Hakol, Zocher Chasei Avot, Umevi Goel Ibnei B'neihem, Uman Shema Be'ava, Melech Ozer B'Pei Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Raham U'Chokei Tzara, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Asar Ve'Oshia, Mashiach Ruach U'Mavita Gashem, Mechakel Chaim Ve'Chesed, Mechaye Metim Ve'Racham Rabbi, Somech Noflim Ve'Rafeh Cholim, U'Matir Asuri, U'Mechaye Emunatel, L'Shenei נריצך ונקדישך בסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב כתוב על ידך וחרב זה על זה ויאמר קדוש קדוש כבודו מלא עולם משרתיו שואלים זה לזה איה ממקום כבודו ומתם ברוך יאמרו ממקומו הוא יפה ורחמים דרכם עם המחזים שמות ערב על בוקר וכל יום תמיד פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו ומשיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנגלה כל חי ישמיענו ברחמיו שנגלה כל חי להיות לכם כלבים ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושפחתך אלוהינו מפינו לו עמוס לעולם ועד כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אדוני אלוהינו הקדוש
If you are still davening your Amidah, please continue and finish it. Otherwise, join us on page 506 for Kaddish Shalem.
Yikadal v'yikadash me'rapa
Amen.
ve'am ma dibrach yirte ve'am lich malchute v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chaye dechol beis Yisrael v'galav v'zman kari ve'yemeru
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam U'Amen Amaya Yitbarach
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitaman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha
V'yitlu
Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiram v'yama v'yimeru.
Amen.
Titkabal sotechon uhutechon. Decho Israel kadam avuchon divishmaya v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yehe shmira v'mevorach. Yehe v'yama v'chayim aleinu el kol Yisrael v'yimeru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mamav v'yaseh shalom aleinu el kol Yisrael v'yimeru.
Amen. Yeshua Agrina, very beautifully done. We have a few birthdays in the congregation this week, so we wish good wishes to Anna Schleifstein, Ami Seedy, Lori Stein, Chloe Weiss, Len Zinneman, Bonnie Kramer, Stephen Goldberg, Matthew Frank, Roberta Steiner, Jan Altschuler, Dick Mendelson, and Henry Scoburn. And we also have some anniversaries for this week, and those are Valerie and Richard Brooks, Barbara and Jeffrey Hollander, Adina and Jack Mincer, Joseph Sang and Susan Sharfstein, Ellen and Martin Wakesberg, and Arlene and Harvey Mendelson. If you see those folks this week, preferably from a safe social distance, wish them happy birthday or happy anniversary as may be appropriate to the situation. And we are thinking of them and wish them well on their special days here at Agudat Achim. We're going to turn to page 510 for Aleinu, for which we rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, l'ateinu v'reshit, shelo asan v'yaratzon, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chokinu kavod, v'lo aleinu k'cholona, v'anachnu glory. Kaka. Tu b'tortecha Adonai yimlach le'olam va'ed.
We have the following yard sites to remember this week. David Katz, Clifford Elson, Ruth Silverberg, Samuel Sosensky, Merle Hertzman, Rivka Gorodner, Morris Harris, Fanny Mushkat, and Harry Gollum. Those who are in mourning, those who are remembering your yard site today, please now rise and join us for the Kaddish Avelim on page 512. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. Ve'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon u'vyomechon uvachaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala ubizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam u'amei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha b'richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. I guess it's going to be me reading the announcements. I do have them up here. Shabbat ends at 5:05 tonight, and at 5:15 we have our PJ Library Pajama Havdalah. Those of you who are of the right family range for that, we certainly encourage you to check that out and join that. The big news, of course, is that baby boy Spitzer has arrived. Which is a big mazel tov to Rachel, to Rabbi, to Ellie is now a big sister, which is going to be a great thing. We will see Rabbi again, but not for a little while. If you have questions, please feel free to contact Jackie Rowan or Josh Cooper Ginsburg. The ritual committee will see that things that would normally be done by Rabbi will get done in his absence, not as well as he would do them, but we will make it through. And we will look forward to his return fully in late January. Just want a quick note from President Jackie Rowan. We're heading into the winter of COVID, which we didn't really experience because this came on us in mid-March. It's going to create some difficulties we haven't seen before, even as the vaccine is rolling out. The congregation is putting together a Chesed committee to try to make sure those people in our community who have particular needs that we can attend to at this time, that those needs are met by members of the congregation. So you will have received an email from Jackie about the Chesed committee. If you are able to find some time to help out with that, it would be very much appreciated. I hope that this pandemic is starting to head towards an end, but it is not over yet. We do need to maintain our vigilance, and we do need to make sure that we pay attention to the needs of those in the community who are having unusual difficulties coping with this pandemic. So if you can help us with that with the Chesed committee, it would be very much appreciated. Just a few other announcements. We have a Back to the Basics class with Jeffrey Spitzer that's going on. I believe the next installation will not be until Thursday, January 7th. I think we're taking a week or two off for the holidays, but that will come back. We are, however, continuing the portion of the week class with Rabbi Spitzer. While he is out, we have some guest lectures coming in to do that. The next one is going to be on Tuesday, the 22nd of December, and our guest lecturer for that one is going to be Rabbi Werner Ferretier. Hope I pronounced that right. My apologies if I didn't. So if you are looking forward to the Parsha of the Week class, you certainly should be, because we're going to have a very special guest host to do that with us. C.P. Harris's Hebrew classes are continuing. The Jewish Theological Seminary online series is continuing, and there's a session for that, I think, on Monday. Men's Club Torah Study, I believe, is meeting Sunday, and many other announcements that are good to know are available on the website, and we encourage you to check that out when Shabbat is over. And at that point, I think we can go to Adon Olam. And Rena, I guess that's going to still be in your hands, so go ahead and lead us in your favorite tune for Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Asher Malach V'Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'Hepso Kol V'Zai Melech Shemo Nivra V'Zai Melech Shemo Nivra
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for coming, everybody. Thank you for joining us on live stream. Those of you who did it that way, let me remind people to please resist the temptation to violate social distancing, and let's exit from the building in a safe and prompt manner. Good Shabbos. Mazal tov to the Spitzer family. I do.